what it touches is the I don't deserve because I'm basically unlovable. And if I don't just keep giving and, being available for people and, basically being the hero, people are going to find out that I'm unlovable.
Oh, that's such a sad thing. I mean, such a beautiful and sad thing.
This was a big episode. This was an important episode. I will say, at least in the phase of my life that I'm in, where I've got a small girl at home, there's a lot of caregiving. And that's what this was about, is how to tend to others and tend to ourselves. And I'm feeling emotional even just after that, of the importance of tending to self.
I've heard that, you can't really give anyone rice if you don't have any rice in your bowl, this very cliche thing, but it is a true thing. It was a little bit of a more somber episode because we really tackled what to be with ourselves, how to be with ourselves still in a loving way when we get a little depleted, having to maybe take care of someone else. So I love the way Katie always gives us very specific examples and specific tips and tools, to just really, she's an original thinker. She always takes us ways that I don't expect. I love that. This is let's go listen to this episode because it was deep. It was deep.
Yeah.
Hi, Katie.
Hello, Sophie.
How are you today?
Such a pleasure to see you.
Always. So much fun. How are you today?
Well, I actually am experiencing a kind of renewal. Just lightness and readiness, and it doesn't have anything to do with what's going on, in the world, but I'm feeling grateful that I have this.
Oh, that's really joyful. It's funny. It's funny. Actually, not funny. But I found out yesterday that a dear friend of mine lost her husband, and I was kind of left a little bit with like what to say. She lives far away. She's in Australia, so I was left a little bit with like, what does one do? Like when someone is clear. Like she texted me and she was like, what's the word she used? Like, I am broken. Like some really, really, like she's really, because it happened it was super dramatic. Like their husband was fine. He had a stroke. He died like in minutes, like 2 weeks. And so I'd love to bring the conversation of like, what does one say? How do we support? Like, what's the best way to be there for our friends when something like that happens? I'd love to, if that's okay, I'd love to kind of like go there, like see what we have.
Oh, I think that's so timely because also, I've been reading that since the pandemic, many more people are getting sick and having accidents and having this kind of dramatic here and then gone. Yeah. And then how does one respond? A friend, a colleague. And one of the things that I'm most aware of is that people say, "Oh, let me know if I can help." Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the last thing that people can even think about. So your friend, her world has just exploded, and her sense of structure and, her connections and where she lived. And it's almost kind of psychedelic that, there's this sense of, I don't even know when I'm thirsty or to go and get a drink of water. And so one of the key things that I have found is having even a list of specific, like, I would love to support you, and here are some things that I would love to do for you.
Oh,
so I can go and get your groceries, or I can have, I can take the dogs for a walk, or I can come and sit with you. And I have some wonderful music that I really love that has really soothed me. And I'd love to share that with you. So bring ideas because, the structure of life has disappeared. And so to bring in a caring structure that it's not one more thing that they have to think about.
That is such a beautiful idea because it's almost like I would be burning the calories to think about this, like I'd be doing the work, like what are the things I can actually do instead of asking one more thing of you when you already are so, spread thin. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, to me, I'm thinking of that also with caregiving, that it's the same, it's in a way the same thing when caregiving, because I'd been doing a whole bunch of that, since last year when, Gay shattered his right leg. The thing I noticed is that my bandwidth really narrowed, the things I was able to pay attention to, and I could feel it. Like I just didn't have, like I couldn't take on new projects, so for a long time, I even, couldn't participate in the podcast yet because, I just didn't have the energy to do it. So then having somebody say, let me know if I can support you is like, blah,
The part that I find tricky, as you just said that, is because I think people mean well, right? Like,
of course,
intentions are always beautiful. And so it kind of leaps pretty quickly in my head of like the hero move, because where I went before you recommended, maybe we ask questions or we suggest things we can do for one another. I went to, oh yeah, I can sign her up to get food. Like I was going to get into action and doing something that she may not need at all. The idea of asking, these are 4 things that would be really, I'd be so happy to do for you. Which ones are helpful is beautiful, because if I start sending her, like I'm allergic to onion and garlic, the last thing I want is people to cook for me and bring me stuff that makes my house go.
And I've had people do that. They'll bring something, I'll go, thank you, and I'm going to need to pass it on to somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
Well, then it's another thing for me to do. See,
yes,
rather
and then
than
you have to deal with the person who spent 2 hours cooking that thing.
Yes, exactly. And then all of that obligation, and I don't want them to feel bad. And, so it is this assumption that people are still living in the same world that you are. And they're not. So when people, especially when people are grieving, they're, they're so close to the edge of, the veil between life and death is much thinner than we think it is. And when people are in that space, they're not actually in daily life. So, even just the simple things of, like for me, it was taking the trash out, that was a big deal, And so one of the, so someone said, listen, I'm going to come on Sundays and put the trash out for you. I'm going to put the trash bins out for him. And so that it removed something from all of the things I was dealing with. And so I think also what we, the be and the play element, we always think of as, I think people think of it as, la, 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 and, we're having a lifetime, but play, I think also is working with different choices and different alternatives. And how about this? And how about that? So the element of play, I think keeps, well, here's a suggestion. Oh, that didn't work. Well, here's a suggestion. So I'm not getting attached to, like, this is my suggestion, but, a sense of how can I assist your life to have more structure, and less work for you.
That's really beautiful. And I don't know if it's the same for caregiving versus someone just passed. I mean, you'd think that the person who's left is the one who needs the caregiving. So in some ways, it probably has a similar flavor. It feels to me that the knowing that your people are there, so I'm kind of making the devil's advocate a little bit here. Like, please send me a text as someone, something happened in my life and I probably need a little support. For you to send me a note that says something along the lines of like, I'm thinking of you, I'm here, I love you, I hug you virtually for now, something like that. Like even without offering to come take my trash out or even
exactly
soothes my heart a lot, to just know that
you're offering presence and caring. And letting them know that's hugely valuable. And actually just offering that without offering anything and I can do for you, it could be even better because then I can, take that in. It is soothing and nurturing. And adds to the reservoir that gets just drained. That I was remembering some days that in the early days of caregiving that I literally would be just wiped out at the end of the day.
Just in the holding for the other person, not even being the one who was injured. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what? Another thing that's really beautiful with this is if the person who offers has done the work, so that the offer, similar to gift giving, when you think of it, like some people know that I like giraffes, and so they'll give me things all the time with giraffes, but like things that I would never like. Things with giraffes that are not really, connected too much, whatever. And so I'm curious to like, what's an answer one can have, like that famous plate, like someone brings you the food and you don't like the food. For some people, it's not easy to not be polite, like there's a line between, like you and I tend to be very authentic. We tend to be really direct, and we say, but some people get really offended. Like some people get really offended if I say, I'd love to come to dinner, but I really don't eat those foods. And so is it okay if I bring my own food or, anything like this? And people are like, oh, whatever. Like they're really offended. Like what one does with that.
Well, to recognize. I know what
you do with it. But.
Well, what I was hearing also is I want to know someone well enough to know what they like and what they don't like. Yeah. And for me, being authentic about that would be, I care about you, and I realize that I really don't know a lot about what you like. So right now I'm just going to say, I'm feeling you and I love you, and I'm creating space for whatever it is you might want. And here's one thing I was thinking of. Yeah. And how is that for you? Mm-hmm. But if somebody is offended, it lets me know that they're not really interested in me. So, yeah. That if and then if I have to deal with their hurt because I didn't, I sometimes call that the tyranny of gift giving, because someone will send something and then they'll say, did you get the gift? And did you like the gift? And then I got to figure out what to do with the gift that doesn't fit for any of my decor or anything that I like. And so it gets donated, but can I then tell the person, well, it doesn't fit for me, so I donated it. But what underlies that for me is like, this is not a relationship where we have that level of understanding of each other, where a gift, would really come from, me resonating from and knowing you and knowing that I would never send you anything that had garlic or onions in it.
True. The other thing you said earlier, when particularly in the circumstances, around Gay's recovery, and it sounded like when you said, at the end of the day, you'd be really depleted. It's like, I wonder if there's an element where people don't know how to take care of themselves. And I'm not saying you certainly would, but I wonder if there is almost like when the other person needs you so much because they can't, walk to the kitchen. Like, is there an element of like, what's the balance? Like, how do I take care of myself while I'm taking care of you? It's
such a valuable question. Well, I've had a year and a half to study that.
Please share what you found.
And one of the most important things that I found was to notice the first signals of depletion. Because I had, in my earlier life, what I called an Energizer bunny, mentality. I would just go until basically I fell over. The battery would run out and that would be it. And so what I began to recognize was these signals from inside, I'm just starting to feel depleted. And I would give myself 20 minutes to simply lie down. I would just go horizontal. I might listen to some music, but just lying down, it was a reset for me. So giving myself permission to give attention to me.
Yeah.
And I think for so many of us, that's, well, he or she, or, they need me more, and I got to do this thing. This thing has to happen. So what I found was that there was space for me to care for myself. So really, and also even at least once a week, I would do something special where I got taken care of.
Yeah.
So my go-to was in our little town, we have a wonderful foot massage. We have a massage. It's called AA Relaxation, and we have this wonderful. And so I would go and get a foot massage.
Oh, I see.
And it was just lovely because it was just for me. Nobody was talking to me. Nobody was asking me anything. And a foot massage is so grounding. So it would both nourish me, but also ground me. And so something for yourself at least once a week, I found just to be, it would renew, it would fill the reservoir. And then and I knew it wouldn't, fill it forever. But it also allowed me to let go of what I call heroing, of like, I'm just going to sacrifice myself because you need it more. And so valuing myself allowed me to actually give more and more freely without any kind of underlying, resentment or, or what about me, who's taking care of me? Because sometimes, it would be also listening to some music that I really like, or going for a walk, or swimming, things that would nourish me. And so I think it's so important for people to look at, okay, what's my own pace of activity and rest? I would say that's number one, in making sure that you're giving yourself rest, because it's not going to help anybody if you also get burnt out.
I love that. That's exactly where I was going to have us explore for a moment, because I do think that people they think it's selfish to take care of themselves. If they have a situation where the other person, where it sounds very tied in to ask for help, like maybe the person you're taking care of cannot be left alone and you cannot go get your foot massage or do your thing, but maybe that's the time to ask the neighbor if they could come spend half an hour so you could go.
Yes.
And to do it before, like people tend to do it when it's like, okay, now it's like they ask because they no longer have the choice. It's like they are so depleted.
Yes. And then it's really not a choice. And it actually, I find, doesn't refresh you as much because you've sort of gone over the
reserve.
You've gone into the red zone and everything. So giving and also receiving. I think the big lesson for Gay in this whole episode was letting himself receive support.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a big issue for all of us of receiving, because we're taught so much that, it's better to give and, and it's selfish to receive. And so busting up all of that mythology, I think, is incredibly valuable for people. Like, if I get to receive, I'm much more able to give freely, and also to give in a way that doesn't have undertones, so that it's actually nourishing. It's not, because people can tell energetically.
Yeah.
And even if they can't, they don't think about it, but they definitely feel it, and I want my assistance to be freely given because I'm choosing and not because I have to.
Yeah, I was watching in passing a little moment of Drew Barrymore and being interviewed by someone else, and she was crying deeply, and so it caught my attention a little more, and she was saying how easy it is for her to love others and to give to others, and her realization as she was talking to this interviewer is that it's really hard for her to receive. And so as you went there, I'm curious, like, what do you think makes it so hard for people to allow themselves to receive, or to even, is it a deserve thing? Is it a control? Like, what is it?
Well, that's such an interesting question. I'm just percolating with that. My sense is that what it touches is the I don't deserve, because I'm basically unlovable. And if I don't just keep giving and being available for people and, basically being the hero, people are going to find out that I'm unlovable.
Oh, that's such a sad thing. I mean, such a beautiful and sad thing. And so do you think that people unconsciously, wow, as I said that, I just realized how true that is for me. Like, I come from a pretty narcissistic family. There's definitely, the attention was not something given to us that easily. And I would get very sick when I was a kid. Like, I would just because that was the one time where I felt, okay, well, at least I get their care and attention.
Yes. My sense is I can feel that in you. It's like, oh, yeah, I totally understand that we take ourselves then to the edge where we truly can't take care of ourselves and require someone else to, rather than, hey, I'd love some attention. I'm just, I'm feeling kind of, I don't even really know how to describe it, but, I just love some attention. Can we do that? I mean, do you have friends that just can say, hey, so if I want some attention?
I do. I feel like I built, if anything, that might be the thread that goes through all my friendships, is
how lovely.
The tyranny of giving doesn't happen. The difficult to ask, also difficult, because there's also, when you attempt to give someone something and they can't receive it, and there's this energetic, even if they ask for it in some indirect way, or even if they're still almost kind of why do I have to fight so hard to give you something? That feels like an enormous amount of effort.
You're describing my mother.
Oh, whoa. Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of us, when I would try to give something to my mother, it would run into her unlovability feelings about herself. And so I'd have to push through that. And then often whatever I would give her, she would sort of mess it up in some way. Like I gave her a beautiful caftan that I gotten in Mexico because I knew it would be, easy for her to use it. It would be beautiful. And so the first thing she did was sort of reconstruct it so that it became more like a house coat. And so to me, it comes back to that same issue of our intention, Gay and I, is to expand our capacity every day to give and receive more love. And it's the receiving part that I think is the challenge for people. So I would invite people to try on that, are you willing to expand your capacity to receive, to open up to receiving love in all kinds of different ways, that, somebody, sends you flowers, or someone calls up. I have someone who will call up and sing. They just call and so, these ways that people want to give. But if you're not available, that impulse then gets stymied, but also can then come back to, of course, I don't have anything to offer, because I'm unworthy.
I was going to say the other one that I sometimes witness is, how is that a trade? So you give someone something and you can see the wheels are churning already. Was okay, I don't want the dependency that this created.
Right. So I don't want the reciprocity. I was just remembering my mother used to keep a notebook.
Oh, no.
I'm not kidding.
Did for what? Oh, my God.
So, well, no, it was really also when she would go to someone's house, it would be, what kind of a party was it? Oh. So it was almost like, how many things can I check off before do I have to reciprocate with a big party, or can it be a bridge party, or... And she had all of these notes so that she would be,
as to not give too much in return.
Well, as also to keep it even, so that
even.
But also so that she would not be, not giving enough.
Right.
So she'd been invited to a big, like a big Christmas party where there was dancing and band and stuff. No, she would have to have, 2 or 3 things she invited them to kind of make it even.
Oh my God. So which is interesting because nature doesn't work that way, right? Like the bees do the thing so the flowers can do the thing, so that the flowers can do the thing, so the fruit, and we get nature doesn't go, give you this, take that back, let me make this transactional thing.
So nature is not transactional. So that sense of, what I love, and the way that I've chosen to live for many years, is with the flow coming through. Like I'd love to, if like I was at a party yesterday, and I had on a top that's this gorgeous blue. It's kind of the blue that I have on in my collar, and the person who was giving the party, she said, "Oh, that's just so beautiful." And I realized right in that moment that I had bought two of them. And I didn't, and I just had held on to them. Why do I have two of them? And then I just thought, oh, it's because I'm going to give this to you. And so, I took it off in the driveway and gave it to her, and I had something on under it.
Did you walk out on your bra? Or you had another shirt in the car.
Right, of course, because, I love to live in flow. And in generosity. And I love to have people in my life who also are living like, oh, we're, if something, if this is for you, I'm going to give it to you. And I have, I've just seen the magic of that. In fact, there was an article many, many years ago in the Whole Earth catalog that's called "The Gift Must Always Move." So, and it's an ethic that many indigenous peoples used to share, which is nothing really ever belongs to you. And if you have a gift, the gift wants to move. And so whether it's the gift of your presence or, the gift of something that you've really enjoyed that you think someone else might enjoy, that's part of the richness of living, is the giving and the receiving, of the abundance that we experience when we're really living in love and flow.
It's funny, it reminds me, one of my absolute favorite things when I lived in LA, which was closer to you, is that you often get 4 tickets when you like a show or a concert or something you think might be interesting, and you'll invite, a couple people to join you, which I've always, even without knowing who they are, that's the part that's really beautiful that I found, is often you'll be like, hey, we have these tickets for this thing. Do you want to come? And it has this freedom and this flow. And I ended up going to concerts and things with you that were just absolutely, talk about magic. They were just, so much better because they were, I would have bought my own tickets. I would have done whatever. But the fact that it becomes a shared experience.
A shared experience. It's so important that shared experience of being nourished by art, being nourished by creativity. That I think is, the height of what humans can share. Sharing genius. However that is coming through. And I know I just bought some tickets for concerts that are going here, and I brought two extra.
I know.
Because I love to share. And so, but the other side of that is if people are not open to receiving, it really just stops that, that flow of the gift wants to move.
The other thing as you're talking that because I was testing inside of me as you were talking, like, what is my relationship to all this? And one of my favorite things, possibly one of my I don't know, superpowers of sorts, is I find a way. So if I see that someone is struggling with receiving, I'll say something like, do you like to give to others? And they'll be like, well, I love giving to others. It's like my favorite thing. And I would say, me too. Can you let me have the gift of gifting to you because you like doing it, I like doing it. So can you give me the gift of gifting to you? And they'll be like puzzled. Like they'll look at me like, I don't even know what to do with that. Right?
I don't even know what you're saying, but you're right. That's exactly. Giving is the gift of giving needs a receiver. So if we're always that's what the hero would insist on keeping giving.
Yes.
And to let oneself receive is such a gift to others. And you just encapsulated that, I think, quite beautifully.
Thank you. I'm wondering, we said a couple things in the receiving, and we started all this with caregiving and kind of what to say when someone is, in a vulnerable time of their lives. I'm wondering if the not letting someone else help you, be there for you, whatever the words we would use. I wonder if there's something about not wanting to have a dependency on others, like to need someone is quite a vulnerable
Yes,
thing. Would you
it is
say?
quite vulnerable, and we're and Western society, Western society is based on I'm an individual. I can take care of myself. I'm thinking of Simon and Garfunkel. I am a rock. The sense that I should be a rugged individual, I think has messed us up so much that people absolutely need the giving and receiving of attention lifelong. And that's, one of the things that we've learned, from research in recent years, that the giving and receiving is one of the most basic things that allows us to have a successful life, but a thriving life is that social exchange, which is really the giving and receiving of attention, of interesting things to do, of things that are nourishing.
That's really profound. And as we're wrapping up, I kind of back to nature, thinking there was a tree in the backyard at my house that we had when I was a kid, and it was giving apples. It was an apple tree. And if no one used these apples, they would just rot. They would just be like, nature does not function well with not having also a place like, eat my apples, the tree.
Yeah, right. Yes. Like right now we have a bazillion lemons. And so,
find people to give the lemons.
Finding people to give the lemon, and that people who are available. And so it is really the giving and the receiving that makes the whole.
What do you like to finish what you were saying earlier too? What did you learn in this process, assisting Gay as he was recovering? And again, like it happened a couple times, one after the other, and now a little more. Like, I'm curious, like, because this last round of taking care of Gay, I know, has been much easier and much, I'm sure not easy, but certainly easier than last year. Like,
it actually has become easy. So that's kind of a little miracle. And I think it's also a function of knowing that Gay's getting the best care.
Wow.
So getting that set up. So
not being worried about him or not worried for him.
Right.
Helps. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that actually was hugely important for me. So knowing that he had the best surgeons and that they were taking exquisite care of him. That for me,
good relax,
relieved a huge amount of anxiety. I would say giving, being willing to take care of myself.
That's beautiful. Isn't that true? Whether we care giving someone else or not, like it's true, right? Like we don't take care of ourselves. There really is there's no place to give from.
Right. There's to me, I use the reservoir. That's the image that really works for me. Is making sure that I'm filling my reservoir, because it's flowing. And so if I don't have anything flowing into my reservoir,
you empty out.
Yeah.
You empty out.
Yeah.
Wow. You heard it here, people. Go fill your reservoir. Whatever you do to fill up your reservoir. Certainly being with you fills up mine. So thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.